Equity Institute's podcast on the purpose of public education with me, Vincent Perez. Today, we're going to be with Monica Vera as a student at La Cima. I since seen her grow into an amazing educator at the junior counselor level where she was in college, and then coming back to serve with us as a senior counselor. Monica is committed to students from the early years all the way now into high school and beyond. Please welcome Monica Vera. Thank you, Monica, for being here. I appreciate your perspective as a practitioner on this podcast about the purpose of public education. To start for our listeners, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're connected to public education?
So my name is Monica Vera Alvarez, and I am connected in different ways. So currently I am working at a public charter high school. So that is my current experience. But I also just have that lived experience of going through the K-12 system and seeing my siblings go through that as well.
And geographically, where is that? Where's the school?
We're located in Des Moines, Washington, so South King County.
So from your experience through K-12, higher ed, and now serving in the institution, is what's the purpose of public education?
In my experience, I believe that the purpose of public education is really to prepare our students and children with the skills that they will need to thrive outside of school, thrive in their adult lives. And so really it's to teach that the core content and just some skills for them to be able to navigate systems once they graduate high school, once they're adults over 18.
I've been thinking a lot about this. Obviously, here we are in this project. I propose that, school is to foster stable human beings. So you're very similar idea. So how can we be adult in our culture? So what knowledge, skills, and attributes must K-12 help support and build so that adults can be stable and can navigate this culture?
There's so much I think that really needs to be taught, and it's hard to I guess put it into words for me, but really it would be to be able to take on different tasks, to work with different people, because as adults you're going to be working in a fast-paced environment most of the time, collaborating with others, and it's just important to be able to not only teach the core content like math, science, and English, but really also just how to work in our society, to work with other people, and just to be able to communicate and just handle the different challenges that come at us. Because there are different challenges that come at us through life. And so it's just important to be able to know how to handle that.
I was with 90 middle schoolers about who was last spring, and the focus was about mental health. And I asked, what hardships either have you experienced or do you expect to experience in your lifetime? And they named it all. Middle school students, right? They already know. There was one school where a student had taken their own life, and they're like, grief and loss. We have to figure out that is, because we're dealing with it right now. There's they named divorce and abuse and addiction and all the things of our culture and here we are in 2023. They know what's coming. And I asked how are schools preparing them to deal with those hardships, right? Outside of, the math and the science and this core content, but really how to be people with people. So I'm curious about your approaches or models that have really worked that you see kind of support this idea of public education, this purpose of what I hear you saying is really being the whole child, right? How are we supporting the whole person to develop anything in particular that's working that you've seen?
I do think that at the core, really inclusive education and really being thoughtful of all of the different people that we are serving and their backgrounds that they all come from, because everyone is unique and they all have different ways of learning and of being in different spaces. And so I think that being able to be inclusive to that and just making sure that we're creating an environment that shows all of our students that they're welcome and that we care about them, because I think that love and care is at the core of education, because if you feel that someone cares about you and someone truly sees you for who you are and cares about your future and your interests, I think that will help you focus more in a classroom and want to be there and want to attend school. So I think that model is very important to me. And same with just offering different experiences or being able to build on the interests of our students is very important, because if you're teaching something that maybe they're not as interested in, or teaching a subject in a way that is difficult for them to understand, maybe it won't reach them the same way. Then if you can make it a little bit more based on their interests, something that will attract their attention.
So I imagine in South King County, the diversity is really broad. And so how at your particular institution are you tapping into students' interests and kind of really fostering this inclusive approach?
So we do have a bit of a non-traditional model. And so at our core, we say we are very inclusive. We're trying to be very culturally appropriate and inclusive for all of the different backgrounds that come to our school. And we offer that experiential model of trying to, starting at age 14, offer different experiences like field trips or career panels, so that our students are able to really get to see other people who look like them, who come from similar backgrounds in different places and different careers. So then they can learn directly from them and be able to hear about how they got there and see themselves in those types of positions or roles as well. Same with like offering different internship opportunities so that they can at least once a week get to go and get that one-on-one practice, because I do think that that is very important, so that then they can explore their interests. And then let's say they have an interest at the beginning and then they explored it, but then maybe it was something that they didn't really want to pursue. They're still able to explore other interests so that then they can see what is a better fit for them. Because after we're 18, most of the to have a job or to find some kind of pathway. And so I think that that's really important to have that practice for them.
It almost sounds like, I know when some students get to college, for me, for sure, you have your major and you really explore, you're like, oh, that's not it. So you're like ahead of the game here in high school.
Yes, exactly. I had a similar experience. I went into education, and then I was like, wow, there's so many other subjects and so many other things I want to explore. And I think it's really cool to explore it early.
So it sounds like you're getting out of the building, right? It's not everybody's going to go here in this traditional model, but getting students out in the world. I'm curious what you've seen from this idea that, learning, it doesn't always happen in this schoolhouse. And I would actually posit that most learning happens in many aspects of life. It's not like it's just here in the classroom.
Yes, exactly. So we actually call it leaving to learn. And so we truly do believe that you can learn by being out in our community and seeing what is really out there. There are so many different names and titles to different roles, and maybe I know I didn't know about all of these different roles that are out there. And so getting to explore that at such a young age is really great. And what I've gotten to see has just been amazing. We've had some students who are interested in architecture, and they've had a chance to go to the Virginia Mason, where the Seahawks train. And so they got to go and see the building and physically go and ask questions and learn about what that building offers and who all gets to be in that space. And so it's really exciting to see students who are 14 get to experience that and get to ask very real questions and just get to see things in person. I think that that's really important, and it's just exciting to be able to offer those opportunities for them.
So you said you are in a charter, which I think has a little more opportunity to innovate and, try some new things. But I'm curious if you're seeing any challenges to this kind of framework and model, and how you're overcoming them.
I think our main challenge is really funding, which can be a challenge for for all schools, I think. But in Washington State, realistically, it's not very open to charter schools. So that is a challenge that we're facing. And so we just have to be a little bit more intentional and thoughtful of where we get our funding by applying to grants or having private donors support us, which helps us a lot to be able to just continue to offer other opportunities for our students. So I think that is really the main part where, one, a lot of people don't know about charter schools. They don't know about what we do offer. It is a new kind of model, I think, especially here in Washington. And so I think that it's just something that we need to, one, spread the word, and then also just find more funding opportunities.
Do you have experience in public and charter as well?
Personally, working in public schools, no.
Okay.
But just my lived experience.
But what is your history in early ed?
Early education, I was working in the classroom with children who were 3 to 5 years old. But then later I moved into more of a family advocate role where I was offering resources for their families. So still working with early education, but more kind of with the family as a whole.
Has that experience informed what you do now?
It has, because now in my role, I actually have been supporting with recruitment, enrollment, and then building community in our school and building parent participation as well. And so I have really just become I would say like a community specialist. I help really bring people together, build relationships between not only our teachers, our students, but also our parents so that everyone can come together and really support our students who are really at our core, but we all just work together so that we can be supportive and provide the different resources that they need.
Okay. How many students are at the school?
We have 222 students. Right now we're offering 3 different grades and we'll be offering 12th grade next year. So really each year we built on. So instead of taking on 4 different grade levels, we started slow.
This question, you spoke to a little bit how it informs you, but I'm really curious in your own public education, K-12, how did it impact you? And in particular, like what impact did it have on your, I like to use the word spirit, like how did it impact your well-being, your spirit, with it, for it, against it, so I'm curious, what was your experience in public education?
I think each year brought so many different experiences. I remember when I first started in kindergarten, I went in as an only Spanish speaker. And so I faced a lot of challenges that I still remember to this day with just racism, teachers not wanting me to speak Spanish and telling me I couldn't speak Spanish. And so I feel like that it started off challenging. And then now I would say that by the time I was in high school, it was much better. I was able to build connections with specifically a couple of teachers and teachers who became my mentors and who have really supported me even after high school. And so it really was more the teachers and the people I got to individually work with who really made that lasting impact, I would say, on my experience of public ed. Yeah, the people I worked with that I would say made me who I am. And I'm glad that I faced some challenges. Of course, I wish in a way that some things just didn't happen. And I'm really happy that we've moved forward and that hopefully these things aren't happening as often. I do appreciate just the teachers who did notice my skills and who helped build on them and helped me expand and really be able to participate in different camps and leadership camps, which really helped me go to college. So being able to attend La Cima leadership camp, I truly think that if I hadn't attended that camp, I wouldn't have seen one representation because I didn't really have a Latino teacher. I saw it at leadership camp and then I didn't really see that until college. And so that was huge for me. And if it wasn't for that, I do think that I wouldn't be where I am today.
Wow. So without those couple relationships with those educators,
yes.
What would your pathway have been?
I think that I honestly think I probably would have not gone to college because it wasn't something that was on my radar. It wasn't something that anyone really ever talked to me about until I was in leadership camps where people were talking about going to college. And that's when I realized, wow, I guess I should go to college. And that is a possibility for me. So I think that I wouldn't have gone to college. I wouldn't be working in education and I would probably be a stay-at-home mom realistically. That's great. And some people do that and that's what they want to do. But I think that wasn't what really something that was meant for me yet. I'm really glad that I did go to college and that I'm now working in a school and that I'm able to impact students and families.
Again, with geographically where you are, I'm curious about you were an English language learner. And for me, I really see students who have a mother tongue other than English as a huge asset because all students are going to learn. It's going to happen. So how many languages are at your school and and how are you supporting in that area, right? Especially with families who don't speak English. I just know that often they don't feel welcome. They don't feel like they belong. And so what is the institution doing for that inclusive goal that you all have?
So I believe we have about 17 different languages at our school. What we do is, especially during like whole group gatherings or like family meetings, especially, we make sure that we have interpreters. We have an ASL interpreter, a Spanish interpreter. We see so many different languages like Arabic, Somali, Pashto, for example. And so we try and support as best as we can by having different interpreters. And then in the classroom, it's really full immersion to be able to really teach the English language. But we also have instructional assistants who help support more one-on-one with our students who maybe during class, especially, it goes by so fast, they can get more one-on-one support to really be able to get that proper understanding.
I'm really curious how your lived experience influences that, how you interact with students and families. Yeah, is there anything that you would have liked to have seen from your own educators?
I think that patience and flexibility and understanding really just the real challenge of being in a space where you're still trying to, I would say, catch up, because you're trying to stay listening and understanding what's happening, but because it's happening so fast, it can be really challenging. And so I think that having someone who is just understanding and empathetic to your situation is really important, because I think that a lot of times it almost feels like you're being looked down upon, but really it's a huge asset to be able to have multiple languages. And I think that we need to reframe it, and instead of seeing it as a negative thing, a lot of times we need to be seeing it as a positive skill, because really it's so needed now in our world and our different communities. And so I think that it's something that we need to always see it as a positive. Instead, I have interactions sometimes where people say, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand you," or "I'm sorry, I didn't speak English," or "I'm sorry," and it's not your fault. You shouldn't be apologizing. It's just a different space, and we just have to be as supportive as we can to be able to understand each other.
This conversation is really leading into language learners or English language learners. I find myself, I was really curious about the development. So if a student comes in like you, okay, and they say, don't speak Spanish, just learn English. What happens to your Spanish development in your mother tongue, right? Literacy, spelling, all the things of language get cut off, right, from your mother tongue. And they're saying, learn this thing. And then even in your language, you say, I got to catch up. So if you're always behind in English and then you cut off the mother tongue, then you're kind of stunted in both languages. So how does institutions and schools actually accentuate and invite in that mother tongue, all these different 17 languages? Do they get to write an essay about, for Spanish speakers, there's also a whole lot of grammar and the tilde and also punctuation and all that other aspects, and, help develop English at a level where they're going to navigate their lives in America.
Right.
I don't know. I've been wondering about that. How do we foster both? How do we support both and not make it an either or?
I had a chance to see kind of a model that was happening here at it was Kent School District, but it was only because I got to support during COVID, during virtual learning. And I had a chance to see this model, which I liked because they were teaching math and science, I believe, in Spanish fully to fourth graders, and then English and language arts, and then another subject in English. And so what they were doing was they were teaching in both languages to students who were in this dual language program. And many students were either they only learned English in their home, or some they were learning Spanish in the home. And so they were kind of learning both languages at the same time. And I really liked that model, because I liked that, especially at such an early age, they were getting a chance to learn a specific subject and specific subject content, but in only Spanish, which was completely different from my experience. And so I really liked that, because it wasn't something where they were translating every single sentence or they were doing all of that. It was, we're going to teach math in Spanish today, and this is what we're going to do. And hearing some students, I was just completely impressed with hearing students who were born in a family who only spoke English speak clear Spanish at fourth. So that was really exciting for me to see. And I would definitely like to see it more, because I'm sure that there's a lot of data and a lot of just feedback showing how positive that has been. And I think that helps too, because then once they're in high school, they can continue to practice that Spanish and then be fluent by the time, they're 18.
Yeah, I know in Washington, there is a large push in dual language, a lot of great projects and programs happening out there. And I also hear it's hard to do.
I'm sure.
So, we're getting to that answer, right? So it is that dual language education, depending on who are the peoples in the area. So I'm curious then, as we close, is there anything that, when you think about purpose of public education that you like to highlight? And, if you think about, okay, if you hear one thing, so either reiterate or like actually I think I left this out, anything you would really think is important for audience members to hear?
I would just reiterate that it's just important to see our students as a human who's growing and learning, and also teach them that it's okay as an adult to make mistakes as well. We're all growing and learning, and showing them that you're human yourself. So I just think it's important to humanize our students, see them for who they are, and then just really show them that we truly care about them. There may be times when we feel challenged, but that's just part of life. And it's really important to learn from those challenges, of course, and ask more questions, and then just try and figure out how we can best support them, because every interaction matters. And I would appreciate and just to wish for just positive interactions, just to show that our students that we truly care about them.
I'm having this conversation, and it seems like there's going to be a theme here of humanize, right? Of really acknowledging and harnessing and honoring our humanity. I guess my final question will be, when did you experience that, especially in public education? Where did you feel that you were humanized? Was there a particular moment or educator that really stood out to you and said, I felt seen and heard and I was valued?
Travis Reuter, really my mentor, my teacher. He was my advisor starting in 9th grade, and he stayed being my advisor through 12th grade. And I think that he really saw me and my friends for who we were, and he also saw our interests and he built upon those. And so I think that when he suggested that I attend a bilingual leadership camp where it was just a space where I just felt at home. And so that was when I felt like someone saw me for who I really was, because I was able to be in a space with people who were like me and who had similar experiences, backgrounds. And so I think that was the time when I saw myself for really who I was. And I didn't realize it at the time that I was feeling so different, and really being able to be in a space where I felt like I could be myself or be around people who even had like similar traditions, food interests, things like that. It was just amazing. And it was very impactful for me. And so I think that was when I felt like I was truly seen as a human.
Wow. Thank you. Kind of speaks to the importance of affinity space.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, Monica. I really value this project and that we're really engaging practitioners, right? Here you are every day with students, with families in our contemporary culture, right? Here we are today, 2023. What does it mean for our students in the future and how we're preparing them, especially as things shift so quickly? I've been thinking a lot about the last 100 years and innovation and how it's, from airplanes to antibiotics to the birth control pill to computers and internet and smartphones and now AI, right? So what are schools doing to prepare our students for the next 100 years?
Right.
I'm really glad you're part of the system and supporting students and families who are really doing that.
I appreciate you having me, and I just appreciate being able to hear different perspectives too. So I'm excited to hear more about who you've had participate in this podcast, and I'm excited to just continue to grow and improve just our education system, because I know it's important.
Thank you.
Thank you.